take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. The White House is highlighting a massive drop in illegal border crossings in President Trump's first 100 days back in office. We'll have the latest from a morning press briefing. Russia announces a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine, the reported reason for the truce, and how Ukraine is responding. President Trump suggests eliminating income tax and replacing it with tariffs. But is this actually feasible? We ask an economist. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaks out on U.S.-China tariff negotiations, saying it's up to the communist nation to de-escalate. And Spain and Portugal at a standstill. A power outage halts subway and railway trains, cuts phone services, and even shuts down traffic lights and ATMs.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
The White House highlighting a massive drop in illegal border crossings in President Trump's first 100 days back in office. Meanwhile, Border Czar Tom Homan says there could still be around 20 million illegal immigrants in the country, and the administration today has a message for them. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
Today, later this afternoon, President Trump will sign executive orders on the border. One, to enhance law enforcement, to really go after the criminals in the country, and two, to put up a list of sanctuary cities and states who the White House says are violating or potentially hindering federal law enforcement. And meanwhile, the White House this morning touted a 100-day record of the administration's crackdown of illegal immigration. They listed numbers to us. For example, they say there's been a 99% drop in illegal crossings during the first 100 days of the Trump administration compared with the same period during the last administration. Also, known gotaways at the border also massively decreased compared with the last administration. The White House Border Czar Tom Homan at a morning briefing with us this morning told us that this is an unprecedented success. Watch.
Under the first 100 days, what was actually January 20th to April 1st, last year, 184,000 illegal aliens were released into the United States. Under this administration, 9. This is unprecedented success. The border secure. President Trump saving lives.
And today, with the borders theme, the White House also put up yardsticks across the White House lawn here with photos of illegal immigrants. And the White House today also responded to recent controversies, especially as a case of a mother deported back to Honduras was deported with her 2 children who are U.S. citizens. One is very, very young, the other one also under 10. Meanwhile, the administration responded saying that this is a legitimate move as that's necessary, first, to remove any potential public safety threat, and 2, they're keeping families together as is a willingly made decision by the parents to do this in the first place. Watch.
And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. And have a U.S. citizen child, and you're immune from our laws, you're never going to fix the border. People will keep putting themselves in harm's way. More women would die. More children would die crossing this border.
And in addition to the yard signs with illegal criminals deported, the White House today also gave us a long list of 100 ICE arrests of illegal criminals, for example, who committed crimes such as rape, murder, and sexual assault of children. And Tom Homan, who has been working on border issues for the past 40 years, explained to us this morning about why he got very emotional usually during media interviews and talking about such cases, and why every removal, in his opinion, is necessary. Watch.
I've talked to little girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by the cartel members. And when you get to your knees and you talk to that little girl and everything innocent and pure has been ripped from her, when you listen to the Laken Riley, 17 minutes, that young lady fighting for her life, don't just think, okay, a young woman died. Think of how she died. For every illegal alien we arrest, public safety threat, one at a time makes this country safer.
Meanwhile, we are going to hear more from President Trump this afternoon as he signs executive orders focused on the border. And also, while today's theme is the border, tomorrow the theme will be the economy as the White House highlights President Trump's 100-day record. Tomorrow morning, around the same time at 8:30, Caroline Leavitt will be given a briefing with Secretary Bessent, Scott Bessent of the Treasury Department. And also, we will have Trump rally in actually Michigan tomorrow afternoon as he marks his first 100 days in office. So Tom Homan was asked today about how many illegal immigrants are still in the country. And he says that he thinks there are at least still 20 million of them living in the U.S. And today the administration sent a clear message to them saying that if you are an illegal alien residing in the U.S., you cannot hide from ICE as they are actively looking for them. And also for those, especially with a final deportation order, Homan says that they should go on the CBP One app to deport themselves, as if they don't, they will be pursued and prosecuted and deported involuntarily, and that means they won't be able to come back to the U.S. ever again. Back to you.
President Donald Trump is seeking a list of sanctuary cities and states. That's in order to find out which areas are not complying with federal immigration law. The White House said Trump will sign an executive order later today. The order would direct the Attorney General and Homeland Security to identify the cities and states violating federal immigration laws. Last week, a federal judge blocked Trump's administration from withholding federal funding from more than a dozen sanctuary jurisdictions. Those areas have declined to cooperate with Trump's immigration crackdown. The president is also meeting with House Speaker Mike Johnson at the White House, kicking off a critical stretch for his immigration, economic, and tax agenda. Legislative work begins tomorrow as multiple House committees start marking up parts of what Trump calls a big, beautiful bill aimed at boosting the economy. Trump urged Republicans to stay in Washington and skip his Michigan rally tomorrow, stressing the urgency of the work ahead. The rally will mark the president's first 100 days in office. Meanwhile, Democrats led by Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker protested GOP budget plans on Capitol Hill yesterday, focusing on potential Medicaid cuts. Also on the House floor this week, bipartisan bills on hotel fee transparency and protections against non-consensual AI-generated images. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said many top U.S. trading partners have made very good proposals to avert U.S. tariffs. He added one of the first deals to be signed might be with India. Bessent made the remarks during an interview with CNBC this morning. He said the U.S. also held very substantial negotiations with Japan and that discussions with other Asian trading partners were going well. Bessent commented on China's recent moves to exempt certain U.S. goods from retaliatory tariffs. He said it shows Beijing wants to de-escalate trade tensions with the United States.
I believe that it's up to China to de-escalate because they sell 5 times more to us than we sell to them. And so these 125, 145% tariffs are unsustainable.
Bessent also commented on the strengthening euro. He warned that European countries may move to cut rates to counter its rise. Bessent says Europeans don't want a strong euro, while the U.S. remains committed to a strong dollar policy. Donald Trump Jr. joined the co-founder of cryptocurrency firm Nexo Capital at an event in Europe. The company announced it's returning to do business in the United States.
We are going to be stronger, we are going to be smarter, and we are going to win, win, win. America is back, and so is Nexo. Thank you, everyone.
We see that opportunity. We see that opportunity for the financial sectors. We want to make sure we bring that back. I think it's an incredible thing, and a lot's going to change in the very near future. And I think my father's administration is going to try to do that effectively.
Donald Trump Jr. made a stop at Nexo's event in Bulgaria while touring Eastern Europe. The company is based in the Cayman Islands and left the U.S. after disputes with regulators over a crypto lending product. It resulted in Nexo paying $45 million in penalties. Nexo's co-founder told Reuters it is having constructive conversations with regulators to make its U.S. return. He said that Trump Jr. was not helping the company to return to the U.S., but was spreading a general message that crypto is important to the United States. Nexo described yesterday's invite-only event as a high-level dialogue on finance, technology, and the deepening alignment between American enterprise and international capital. The end of President Trump's first 100 days is coming up tomorrow. NTD will have all-day coverage and analysis of his promises, progress, challenges, and a lot more on his second term. Make sure you don't miss out on that. Moving on, President Trump says he would support a law that would ban stock trading for members of Congress. This comes as some are raising questions about how the new tariff policies might have benefited some in office. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports.
Stock trading for members of Congress is now back in the spotlight, as President Trump said he would absolutely sign a bill that would ban members of Congress and their spouses from trading stocks while in office. Such a bill has been introduced several times in Congress without full passage. Most recently, Democrat Seth Magaziner and Republican Chip Roy have introduced a bipartisan bill to address it.
270 trades, 7.16 million in volume, 5.7% return. A Democrat, 186 trades for 13 million for a 56% return. That's a pretty good return. Should be following that particular Democrat.
The issue has lingered unresolved in Congress for several sessions. Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi faced allegations of insider trading after her husband made $5 million off of Alphabet before congressional action on Google. And most recently, Democrats have raised concerns about Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene and others buying tens of thousands of dollars in stocks immediately before Trump implemented a pause on tariffs.
And the stock market shot up. And you know that there are people who knew about that in advance who made a lot of money off of yesterday's stock market.
Though lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are pushing for restrictions, congressional leadership has yet to plan a vote. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Authorities say they've arrested a second person in connection with the theft of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's purse. They believe the suspect is tied to a series of thefts in D.C. Authorities say the suspect was arrested in Miami yesterday. The Secret Service says the individual is believed to be a co-conspirator with the main defendant. In the incident last week, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem lost $3,000 in cash, her keys, driver's license, passport, and Homeland Security badge. Noem said on X yesterday the suspect arrested in Miami is a career criminal who has been in the country illegally for years. Coming up, President Donald Trump suggests eliminating income tax and replacing it with tariffs. But is this actually feasible? We'll be asking an economist. And coming up, Spain and parts of Portugal are without power. An outage left millions without electricity and triggered widespread transport chaos. We'll be right back.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。 我希望给你的每一把金，都是首先我所信任的。
Welcome back to Newsroom. President Trump said yesterday that the tariffs his administration recently imposed will lead to a substantial cut in tax rates for those making less than $200,000 a year. Now, Trump said income tax could maybe even be completely eliminated, calling that plus new jobs that are being created a bonanza for America. But how feasible is this really? Let's now bring on Joseph Trevisani. He's an economic and currency analyst at FX Street, which provides information and tools for the foreign exchange market. Joseph, great to have you on as always. Let's start with these comments we heard from the president last night. He's repeating this idea of fully replacing income tax with tariffs. So for context, the Congressional Budget Office reports that the U.S. collected nearly $5 trillion in 2022 in income tax. But then meanwhile, the federal government reports that in that same year, it imported about $3.2 trillion in goods. So based on those numbers, Joseph, is Trump's vision really possible?
Well, thank you for having me. It's always nice to be here. I would say no, it's not. On the other hand, from Mr. Trump's timing, since it is barely 2 weeks after the infamous April 15th income tax deadline, I would say as a point to get across to the American people, it's probably perfectly timed. In reality, I don't really see how that would happen, and there just isn't enough money coming in from tariffs, nor could there be, to replace this totally. But could it supplement, reduce rates? Yes, I think it probably could.
Well, President Trump, he's saying that high tariffs would be bringing in manufacturing, right, to the U.S., so then consumers wouldn't have to worry about high prices of imports. But this is kind of a conundrum, right? If there is an income tax and then everything is manufactured in the U.S., where's the federal government going to get its income from?
That is a very good point, and it is one of the reasons I don't think there's a terrible amount of reality to this. It is a political statement, I think, more than it is an economic statement, and as a political statement more than it is, I would say it is a budget statement. It is pointing to a direction that I think the Trump administration would very much like to go, and something which you could say Republicans have in various guises supported over many years, and that is reducing tax rates. Of course, given the realities of the budget situation and of the debt and deficits that we run, it is more an aspirational idea than it is an actual one.
So based on that, Joseph, I mean, there's also the question of paying off national debt. So realistically, how much income tax do you think the administration could actually cut?
That would be extremely difficult for me to say. I mean, if I made a guess at it, it would simply be a number that I don't know how much reality would have to it. I mean, you have to remember what the government is trying to do, though. The deficit is considered a problem, but the reality to reducing the deficit, the extent of $36 trillion, is not by actually paying off the deficit. What would happen is you hopefully prevent the deficit from rising anymore, and then over time, the economy grows so that the same existing amount of debt becomes a much smaller component of the overall GDP. That's where I think this is probably going to go more than anything else.
Well, I'm also curious here, the president, he's floating this current $200,000 threshold. If he's saying if you make below that, you could see tax cuts coming soon. Could that threshold be raised in the future?
It could be. I mean, the money and taxes are, of course, fungible. The money should, in an ideal balanced budget, come from someplace. But right now, of course, we're running tremendous deficits every year. Where and how you place reductions, from an economic point of view, the idea is to make reductions so that you actually generate income for the government over time. It's a well-known fact in almost all tax policy that when you project the amount of money you're going to get from a tax increase, you never get that much money because people make substitutions. People change their plans. People change their spending to avoid the tax. So the reverse of that is you want to generate, if you're raising taxes or lowering taxes, the goal is to generate more income over time. So I think all of these things have to be put into place to come up with a tax policy that will do that. How you do that is, of course, a political question as much as it is a financial or a budgetary question.
So building off that, Joseph, let's talk about China for a second, because Bloomberg is citing an estimate here that cargo shipments from China have dropped 60% since early April. Now, big retailers, they're going to have to soon stock up for the second half of the year, especially as we get into back to school and then, of course, Christmas. So companies like Target, Walmart, they told President Trump last week that shoppers could be seeing less products in stores and higher prices for those products. If we see a deal hammered out with China soon, could these predictions be averted?
Yes, and I think that's the goal, of course, but that doesn't mean we're going to get one. The goal of all of President Trump's tariffs, secondarily, has been to raise money. First, it has been, and his first goal is to get what he calls a fairer tariff regime across the world, so that we are not paying tariffs when our manufacturers when countries are not paying for their manufacturers into this country. That's his goal. And I think he will get, and the government will get, a good deal along that path. And I would say that for China and for imports from China, you probably have a number of months, 2 or 3 at least, where there is leeway for the supply to still come back in time for the selling season, say, especially the end of the year. So I don't think they're at the crux yet. Problem is, deals and negotiated deals like this tend to run right down to the wire and then a little bit over before the sides feel sufficient pressure to sign a deal. And I would not be surprised. In fact, that's what I would expect in this deal, hopefully, with China.
So you're saying time is ticking?
Time is ticking, and we have seen this over and over again. This is very, very common in almost all types of high-stake negotiations for these things. It takes time for the pressure to build and for each side to acknowledge that they've reached the limit of their possible advantage and then come to the table with realistic possibilities for an agreement. I don't think we're really there yet with China and the United States.
All right, Joseph Trevisani, always great having you on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
You too. Moving on now, a blackout brought much of Spain and Portugal to a standstill today, causing major disruptions at Madrid-Barajas airport and leaving millions of homes without power. The outage hit across Spain and Portugal, including their capitals, Madrid and Lisbon. Offices closed and traffic was snarled as traffic lights stopped working. It was not possible to make calls on some mobile phone networks, though some apps were working. ATMs also lost power. Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, confirmed that electricity has now been restored in parts of north and south of Spain, thanks to help from France and Morocco. Now, the cause of the outage is still unknown. The Portuguese National Cybersecurity Center issued a statement saying there was no sign the outage was due to a cyber attack. The death toll in the Iran port blast is rising, now to at least 46, with about 1,000 others injured. The blast happened shortly after the U.S. and Iran began their third round of talks this weekend. The explosion was reportedly caused by the mishandling of chemicals used to make missile fuel. NTD's Jason Perry reports. And a warning, this report contains footage that some viewers may find disturbing.
Black smoke poured into the sky from a port in Iran after a reported chemical explosion happened in the south of the country on Saturday. The windows of nearby offices were completely blown out from the blast. Outside of a building, a man was seen sitting on a curb with blood on his shirt, while a woman with blood on her hands went to use her phone. Another man wiped off the dust from the explosion. Even the cars in a nearby parking lot were damaged from the blast. A man who was injured recalled the moment.
The entire warehouse was filled with smoke, dust, and ashes. I don't remember if I went under the table or was thrown there by the blast.
And rescue operations continued throughout the night as flames continued to burn. Private security firm Ambry said the blast was caused by the mishandling of chemicals used to make missile fuel that were imported from China. However, a spokesperson for Iran's Ministry of Defense denied that missile fuel had been imported through that port. On Sunday, Iran's president visited some of those who were injured in the explosion and said this.
I should extend my condolences to the families of the loved ones who have passed away in this incident, and we will certainly try to take care of the families of those who lost their lives and ensure care for those dear ones who were injured.
This tragic explosion happened just after Iran and the U.S. began their third round of talks on a nuclear deal. The talks reportedly lasted for several hours, and Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi said the talks were considerably more serious.
Let me be clear. We are only discussing issues related to nuclear power. We are not negotiating any other issues. Although when we say nuclear related, we mean building trust in Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanction removals.
The foreign minister of Oman, which mediated the talks, said in a post on X that the next round of talks will continue next week. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said they would like to see Iran stop nuclear enrichment altogether and for them to import any enriched uranium needed for a civilian program. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A strong message from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. He called for a nuclear deal between Washington and Tehran that would completely dismantle Iran's nuclear program.
Once they have the weapons of delivery, ballistic missiles, ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, they will threaten every city in the United States. That is a palpable danger to Israel and to the free world, and it must be prevented. The way to prevent it is to dismantle all the infrastructure of Iran's nuclear program. That is a deal we could live with. Anything short of that could bring you the opposite result.
Netanyahu outlined 2 points for an Iran nuclear deal: dismantling the country's ability to enrich uranium and preventing it from developing ballistic missiles. He described that as, quote, a deal we could live with. Coming up, Russia announces a 3-day ceasefire in its war against Ukraine. President Trump has indicated that his patience is wearing thin amid the ongoing ceasefire talks. And 10,000 illegal immigrants have crossed from France to Britain by boat. Hitting this figure in April is a new record for the UK. It comes as the government is keen to be seen as tough on immigration ahead of local elections. We'll be right back.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth, without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
the difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
Focus on beauty, showcase nature, share kindness, feel brightness. 2025, the 5th NTD International Photography Competition. Capture the beautiful moments in your eyes. Your works will be showcased in galleries and on multiple online platforms, appreciated and collected. Please visit photo.ntdtv.com.
Thanks for staying with us. Russia announces a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine starting next week, but a Ukrainian official says he doesn't think Moscow actually wants peace. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he plans to stop the fighting to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. According to Putin's announcement, the truce will start on May 8th. Russia will be hosting international leaders, including China's Xi Jinping. Putin also announced a temporary ceasefire for Easter Sunday, but both sides accused each other of violating that truce thousands of times. Ukraine's foreign minister said today that if Russia truly wants peace, it should immediately halt its attacks. And the White House says President Trump wants a permanent Russia-Ukraine ceasefire, and he remains optimistic.
He is increasingly frustrated with leaders of both countries. He wants to see a permanent ceasefire. I understand Vladimir Putin this morning offered a temporary ceasefire. The president has made it clear he wants to see a permanent ceasefire first to stop the killing, stop the bloodshed. And while he remains optimistic he can strike a deal, he's also being realistic as well.
So let's keep our eye on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. President Trump said yesterday that his one-on-one meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican went well. The president is also urging Russia to cease its attacks in Ukraine, saying he hopes for a peace deal within 2 weeks. And joining us now is Jim Gilmore, former U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and former governor of Virginia. Ambassador, it's always great to have you on. Happy Monday.
Thank you. Same to you.
So, Russian President Putin, he's announcing this 3-day ceasefire. How do you read this?
Well, personally, I think it's pretty funny because it is to commemorate the end of World War II and the defeat of the Nazis. It is Vladimir Putin who is behaving like Hitler and the Russian nation that is behaving like Nazis. They're the ones that have done this invasion into Ukraine. They're committing war crimes and atrocities. They're doing everything that they can do. And frankly, I think it's pretty funny. I think that it's a way sort of Putin sort of projecting his power and saying, I have the power to either attack and kill civilians or continue the invasion, or maybe I'll just do a little ceasefire for no good reason. So, you know, I think it's a way of him sort of asserting his authority. But at the end of the day, he's failing in his strategic goals. He can't conquer Ukraine. That's perfectly clear now. But he can commit a lot of damage in the interim. You know, let's hope that at some point in time that this could be resolved favorably.
Ambassador, to your point of Putin's motivations, if you will, President Trump wrote on Saturday, speaking of Putin, he wrote, quote, "It makes me think that maybe he, meaning Putin, doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people are dying." Could this ceasefire be some way for Putin to just placate Trump for the time being?
Sure. There's no way that Putin wants a ceasefire. He can enter into something temporary that looks like he's compromising or something like that. But in the end, he has a strategic goal, a long-term goal. And that goal is the elimination of Ukraine, absorbing it back into the Russian state. His General Shogoi said as much as that the other day. You know, that's his game plan. So he doesn't want a ceasefire. He might do something temporary, in order to try to play the game the situation, but probably not. He's continuing on with his invasion and his conquest because that's his long-term plan. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians have a different goal, and their goal is surviving, both as a country and as a people. And I think those two things are really difficult to reconcile. In fact, they're probably not reconcilable.
And I also think it's important to note here that President Trump has publicly called out Putin a couple of times recently, which doesn't happen often.
It's a good step forward. I think that it's possible that President Zelensky, when he met with President Trump at the Vatican, may have projected the sensibility of what's really going on here to the president. And I think the president's beginning to wake up to the fact that Putin is playing him. And if I were advising him, I would advise him to, in fact, to support the Ukrainians militarily and to take whatever sanctions we've got right now on Russia and triple them. It's important to begin to weaken Russia so that they can't continue to carry on this war of aggression.
Well, Ambassador, you're talking about these sanctions. Zelensky, he said Friday night that real pressure on Russia is needed. We then saw Senator Chuck Grassley also urging the president on Friday to, quote, put the toughest of sanctions on Putin. But then we remember during Liberation Day, President Trump didn't put any new tariffs on Russia because he said, we already have so many sanctions on them and we don't do any business with them. Any new tariffs wouldn't really do anything. Would adding new sanctions do anything significant at this point?
Well, tariffs and sanctions are two different things. Tariff is obviously a cost of import or export, whereas sanctions are a prohibition from, for example, entering into the international financial system, or a prohibition on people in Russia enjoying the benefits of civilization, which they're so attacking. I think the place we need to be focused on right now is the risk here of a settlement that really undermines the Western world here. There's a danger. And if I were counseling the president, which I am not an advisor to the president, but if I were, I would warn him that a permanent legitimization of the conquest of Crimea forecloses it for all time. If, on the other hand, we recognize that it's occupied, but we don't say that it's permanently a part of Russia, the Ukrainians can come back a year, 5 years, 10 years, and recapture it. And especially the same goes for the eastern provinces, which Putin intends to try to conquer. From Putin's point of view, it's all temporary. From Ukraine's point of view, it needs to also give them the opportunity in the future to beat back the aggressor.
Well, Trump himself, as well as his press secretary and State Secretary Rubio, they're all expressing frustration at this point that these ceasefire talks are not going where they wanted to go. Could the U.S. potentially really pull out of these talks?
Yes, I think they could pull out of the talks. And I would counsel the president that in engaging in these talks was not a success yet, and probably isn't going to be a success because Putin's goals and objectives are not negotiation, not settlement, not ceasefire. It's conquest. That's what he's after. So Putin was never going to do anything that was going to be constructive on this. But that's not the key to your question. The key is, if there is a ceasefire, what then? If there's not a ceasefire, what then? If the president continues to support Ukraine and provide them the intelligence and the military wherewithal together with the Europeans, then I think that Russia is headed for doom on this. But if, on the other hand, they get the benefit of their conquest, the recognition of their conquest in eastern Ukraine and recognition of their conquest in Crimea, and you foreclose that for all time, well, then Putin didn't make a mistake by the invasion. His conquest has succeeded, and it will succeed again if he pushes it.
Well, then, Ambassador, if you're saying that one possible solution would be the doom of Russia, what would that look like for the global stage?
If I didn't understand you, what did you say? What did you say?
If, as you mentioned, there one possible end to this would be essentially the end of what Putin wants, and an end of Russia's position right now, what would that look like for the EU? What would that look like for the global stage?
Well, look, again, I would counsel the president. He has to make his own decisions and listen to his own best advisors. But if I were in a position to counsel the president, I would ask him to really look ahead out in the very long run. And if Russia is able, through conquest and atrocity, to conquer another independent state, which he, by the way, is not willing to recognize as an independent state. But if he is able to do that, then I think you open the door in the 21st century to invasion and conquest as being the order of the day. I think it has implications on the Pacific. I think it has implications in the Middle East. I think that we're headed for a third world war that Putin would be happy to ignite because he wants to gain back his old empire. He thinks he's Peter the Great, which is delusional unless, of course, we let him win. Then at that point, maybe it isn't so bad for him. But I think that it's in the West's interest to stop Putin from conquering. That's my view, and I've been consistent. And I would counsel the president if I was in a position to do that. But on the other hand, he will keep his own judgment at his own peace and listen to his own advisors. But I hope that there's somebody in his group that are looking ahead out to the long run.
All right, Ambassador, always great having you on. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The U.S. and Poland cooperating on energy. Westinghouse Electric and Bechtel signed a contract today with a Polish state-owned company to continue designing the country's first nuclear power plant. The move comes after an initial agreement expired at the end of March.
Thanks to the efforts of both sides, we can now say with full conviction that American-Polish cooperation in the field of nuclear energy is doing well, better than ever before.
It's the start of a long-term nuclear cooperation between the United States and Poland that will be involved in building future reactors, both here in Poland and in other nations across Europe.
Poland is seeking to reduce its reliance on coal and chose Westinghouse in 2022 to build the plant on the Baltic Sea coast. Warsaw estimates the project's cost at about $50 billion. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said he discussed the future of small nuclear reactors and cooperation on liquefied natural gas with the U.S. Energy Secretary. Poland aims to start the construction of the first unit of the plant in 2028 and complete it in 2036. Iran-backed Houthi terrorists allege that a U.S. airstrike killed at least 68 people. NTD reached out to the U.S. Department of Defense for comment but did not receive a response just yet. A warning, some viewers may find the report graphic, and NTD was unable to verify the claims or the footage.
A video from Yemen's Houthi-run Al Masirah TV claims to show the aftermath of an airstrike in Sada on Monday. Al Masirah TV said 68 bodies were recovered and 47 others were wounded after a U.S. strike hit a detention center hosting African migrants. Earlier this month, the U.S. administration conducted the deadliest strike so far on a fuel terminal on the Red Sea, killing at least 74 people. Washington has pledged to continue its attacks on the Houthis until they cease assaults on Red Sea shipping. Since November 2023, the Houthis have launched numerous drone and missile attacks on Red Sea vessels. They claim they are targeting ships associated with Israel in support of Palestinians amid the conflict in Gaza.
North Korea confirmed for the first time today that it has sent troops to the fight for Russia in the war with Ukraine under the order of leader Kim Jong-un. South Korea reacted to this, calling it an illegal act.
North Korea's official acknowledgement of this involvement is in itself an admission of criminal act. In response, our military strongly condemns these inhumane and illegal acts together with the international community.
The South Korean government also condemned the North for what it called the inhumane and immoral decision to send its young people to battle with the intention of propping up its regime. North Korea says it made an important contribution to the liberation of Russian territory occupied by Ukraine. Ukraine says North Korea sent an estimated 14,000 troops. The Reuters news agency reports the troops lacked armored vehicles and drone warfare experience and took heavy casualties. And turning now to Britain and illegal immigration, a new record hit for migrants crossing the English Channel by boat. The UK's Labour government is keen to show it's acting to stop the illegal crossings, but ahead of local elections, the Labour Party could face a challenge from the Reform Party and its more hardline stance. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has the report from London.
Over 10,000 illegal immigrants have crossed by boat from France to Britain so far this year. This is a new record for how quickly the 10K mark has been reached. Last year, which was the previous record, the 10K mark was reached at the end of May. It highlights the issue of illegal immigration. The government plans to fine people who pose as immigration lawyers and who claim they can give illegal immigrants immigration advice on how to stay in the UK. The key part, they are not registered to do so with the Immigration Advice Authority. Britain's Home Office says some of these people are giving fraudulent advice, while other individuals have been reported to completely fake their law credentials. Under government plans, those giving advice without registration would face fines of up to $20,000. They already face jail time for the crime. The change in law will be introduced to the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, which is currently making its way through Parliament. The bill aims at strengthening the ability of law enforcement agencies to tackle illegal immigration. This is part of the Labour government's pivot away from the deterrence approach of the last government and towards targeting or smashing the criminal gangs that help people cross the channel. But average weekly crossings are higher under Labour than ever before. The surge is in part due to better weather and in part because smugglers are cramming boats with more people. Reform Party leader Nigel Farage says Labour's plan is not working.
The government's pledge of smash the gangs never had a chance of working, and frankly, if you don't deport those that come across the channel, they will keep coming. It's as simple as that, and I believe on this issue, which is leading to such widespread anger and a sense of unfairness across the country, we're the only people with an answer.
Farage has taken a hard line on immigration, promising that if Reform enter government, they would create a Minister for Deportations to tackle illegal immigrants. Local council elections are due to take place in England on May 1st, as well as a by-election for one seat in Parliament. Recent polling suggests the parliamentary seat could be a tight contest between Labour and Reform. According to the Telegraph newspaper, the Labour government is already planning how to counter Reform after the elections, reporting that ministers plan to tighten restrictions on immigration. Since entering government last July, the Labour government has increased enforced returns of failed asylum seekers and foreign criminals. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
A ferry carrying passengers in Florida was reportedly struck by a boat on Sunday, leaving one person dead and at least a dozen injured. Authorities say the boat then fled the scene. Law enforcement reports that they've identified the boat that struck the ferry and an investigation is underway. Officials said that all 45 people on the ferry and all 6 on the boat have been accounted for. All the reported injuries were aboard the ferry and were taken to area hospitals. As of this morning, one person remains hospitalized. The collision occurred on calm waters off Clearwater on the Florida coast. Police warned drivers to avoid Memorial Causeway Bridge. The incident occurred on the final day of a sand sculpting festival. When we come back, Shin Yun Performing Arts recently completed over 40 performances in 9 different cities in Canada. That story and more when we come back.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
Thanks for staying with us. Shenyun Performing Arts recently completed over 40 performances in 9 different cities in Canada. NTD is a media sponsor of Shenyun Performing Arts, and we have audience reactions from people of all walks of life. Take a look.
Shenyun Performing Arts has completed the Canadian leg of its 2025 World Tour. The New York-based classical Chinese dance company performed in 9 cities, including Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and concluded with a final show in Ottawa, the nation's capital. Members of the audience included politicians, musicians, and leaders of major institutions. Theatergoers experienced the revival of 5,000 years of traditional Chinese culture from before communism.
It is my first time, and it was absolutely beautiful, and I did learn a lot about your history, and I think it was worth it to be here in Ottawa tonight, visiting you. The combination of the orchestra, the classical music, the classical dance, and at the same time telling us stories that are old, from 5,000 years old. So I think it was something very moving.
Mind-boggling. I knew it was going to be good. It was better than I ever anticipated. I didn't want it to end. It was spectacular. Oh, wonderful story. I loved every moment.
I'm looking to learn a little bit more, and this has definitely piqued my interest. It's like a great insight into learning more about China before communism.
Shenyun incorporates a unique blend of Eastern and Western instruments. Their live orchestra accompanies the dancers at every performance, giving audiences a more immersive experience.
I mean, that's the most natural thing in music. Instruments, we're told that we're supposed to imitate the voice. So it was really nice to include that. And the pianist was fabulous too. It just sounded natural to me, and it sounded beautiful. I wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, it's a Chinese melody with Western instruments. It just all blended, and I found it very energetic.
Well, first time I've attended an event just like this, and the music was incredible. The live orchestra was amazing. Some of the instruments I had never heard of before, but the sounds were just amazing.
Spectacular. I mean, the colors, the acrobatics, the everything, the music was just phenomenal. The visual effects, the storyline that went along with it, everything was just a perfect evening. And that was my first experience ever seeing Shenyun, and I definitely would enjoy to see another performance. It was fantastic.
Shenyun simultaneously tours the world with 8 companies aiming to restore China's ancient heritage through classical Chinese dance, live orchestration, and storytelling. In addition to celebrating China's cultural legacy, Shenyun also highlights stories of courage and resistance, shedding light on the ongoing persecution of spiritual believers in modern-day China, a key reason the company is banned from performing there.
We value religious freedom in this country. We know that for over a quarter century in Beijing, there's been an attempt to persecute people of all faiths, including the Falun Dafa, and that's wrong. It's about being able to give people the freedom that they deserve, that is inscribed in their heart, to believe what they wish, to thrive in that belief, and to share that in peace with everybody.
I understand about spirituality and belief in a higher power, so I think it's
it's great for people to have their beliefs, and I fully support everything that this stands for.
I was blown away. This time, you know, the passion, the energy, the culture, you feel that peace and you feel the love. And especially in today's world right now, we need that peace and that harmony and that love. But the passion, the dancers, the movement, the energy, it's breathtaking. You gotta be here to see it. We cannot put this experience in words.
Each year, Shenyang brings an all-new performance with all-new dances, music, costumes, and visuals.
It was, in all sincerity, it was a very good program, and I really appreciate it. It is fantastic, and I encourage all people to express their talents in whatever way possible. I learned a lot. I learned something about the history of Chinese culture, the experience, and the fact that you do a different program each year. It must take a lot of time to prepare and organize it. The people here seem to really enjoy and appreciate what was done tonight.
I think the colors, the cohesiveness of the dance, it leaves a wonderful impression, and I'm very, very happy I came. It was beautiful. I think spirituality is beautiful. It's about belief in something bigger than us, and it also brings families together. Traditional values are really important, I think.
We were so impressed with all the different styles that we got to see this evening, and the artistry, and of course the musicianship was wonderful.
Being a dancer, I look at so many different aspects. I think the choreography is amazing, the costumes are beautiful, and the performers, they're so precise and impeccable, it makes it a pleasure to watch.
Congratulations to the artists, designers, the musicians. Congratulations. The kind of work that goes into making such a beautiful production like this was evident today. Stay strong, as there are those who are trying to undo who you are and what you present to the world. Stay strong and continue to be a source of beauty and light in a world that has grave and gathering darkness everywhere. Thank you very much for the work that you've done.
Shenyang will continue with performances in the United States with shows in Chicago, Illinois, Hollywood, California, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania from May 3rd through the 11th. NTD News, Canada.
Coming up next, the House is set to vote this week on whether to overturn former President Biden's approvals that allowed California to ban new gas-powered car sales. Some automakers argue that this could increase car prices and limit consumer options. That and more in the next hour. Stay with us.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
Being a cowboy, I don't know anything different from when I was 3 or 4 years old. I did tough things. I thought everybody needed to do tough things, and if you didn't, I didn't have time for it. I had a very successful career at a very young age, and life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally on the inside. And then I got hurt. I wanted to be better as a person, and I really dug into mental health. I start my day with 20-minute workouts. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Horses are so therapeutic. They know what you're feeling. When you're nervous, they're nervous. You won't say it back, but we're pals. I take a lot of responsibility in taking care of my kids, my family, and being there for them. You're gonna have tough days. Everybody does. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat.